Hello, David Urey families. My name is Heather Kawiza. I'm an instructional coach at David Urey Elementary. You should have received a letter that stated that your child was either going to remain or receive Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention. So I wanted to go through some information of what is that, what does that mean, and what does that look like for your child. So we're going to discuss what is RTI squared, what are the 3 tiers of RTI squared, and what do they actually mean? What are interventions? What is my child doing while they're at the table with the interventionist? And we're going to define some 4 main areas of intervention and how you as parents can help at home. So a couple years ago, the state of Tennessee required schools to do what was called RTI at the time. A couple years ago, they added the extra I. So now we call it response to instruction and intervention. So what it is it's a systematic response that the school uses to make sure that every single student is successful. It's a 3-tier model approach. So it's ongoing process of giving instruction and intervention to allow students to make progress at whatever level they are, particularly those students who are struggling or who need advancing. We provide high quality instruction and interventions that are matched to that student's need. And of course, it is driven by data. And we discuss this data regularly to make sure that what we are doing is working. There's some key elements of what RTI squared is. So first of all, you have to start off with a quality-based core curriculum. This is what your students receive in the Tier 1 instruction with their classroom teacher. Each classroom is required to teach certain things: reading, math, science, social studies. Every student receives that information. The next is a RTI squared school leadership team. That includes me, admin, the other 2 instructional coaches, our interventionists, and other people as needed. So the important thing that we do at David Urey is we make time for collaboration, which we call PLCs. We meet every week to help discuss the data that the students are showing in their classrooms and what we can do to fill in gaps or push them if we need to even further and advance them. RTI squared uses a universal screener for math and reading. We give that 3 times a year, 1 in the fall, 1 in winter, and 1 in spring. The data that I receive from that helps me gauge who needs some extra support. The intervention that we use are research-based. It is a requirement that they be research-based. The main one that we use in reading is Orton-Gillingham, and in math, we use the program Do the Math. We progress monitor every 2 weeks on the child's instructional level. We use a documentation and accountability system. I keep very good data. We make sure that our spreadsheets are up to date and the information and the data that we need is there. And it's one of the other key elements is the home and school partnership. So with your help at home, we make sure that you understand where your child's at and the extra help that they need and what you can do to help support them. There's a lot of things people think RTI squared is, so I wanted to make sure that you understand what it is not. I hear this a lot. It is not a roadmap to special education. To me, RTI squared is we're filling in the gaps where they're needed and then sending them. Our goal is to make sure every student receives the instruction that they need, and I want them to get the foundational skills that they need to return back to Tier 1 instruction all day long. It is not just for Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. Response to intervention squared is the entire day, basically. So whatever your student, we're working to make sure the core curriculum that they receive in Tier 1 is exceptional. We make sure that the teachers understand what they're supposed to be teaching and that they understand what the students need. It is not only for beginning readers. It is not a replacement for Tier 1 grade level core instruction. Every student receives that. And it is not an optional intervention program. We have to do it. It is a state requirement that we have to implement RTI Squared. So what does that look like for my child? So in Tier 1, that's every student. That is what they receive in their classroom with their classroom teacher. They receive differentiation and small group instruction, but it is based on the Tier 1 instruction. Tier 2 are intervention that supports students that are below the 25th percentile on the universal screener. So the research that we do, based interventions that we do for Tier 2 may look a little different than Tier 3, obviously. These are very skilled based. We want to make sure that we're filling in the gaps where they are appropriate. Our Tier 3, these are our students who are in higher need of some basic skills that they may be deficit in. These are kids who are scoring below the 10th percentile on our universal screener. So my interventionists dig down a little bit deeper to make sure we understand what do the students need and how can we fill in those gaps. To me, it makes me think of a house. Every kid is a house, and the foundation may have left out a brick or two. So what we strive to do is to make sure that we fill in every brick that's needed for that student to make sure that they are successful. So Buffon, Mateos, and Weber defined an intervention as anything above and beyond what all students will receive that helps the child succeed in school. They are always in addition to Tier 1, not a replacement. Interventions are additional time and additional support that the students may need. The classroom teacher and the interventionist have the same long-term goal for our students. We all want to make sure that they are successful in everything that they do. However, our short-term goals are going to be a little different than the classroom teacher. The interventionists are working to build in the foundational skills that the student is missing. So when you receive a progress report from us that comes separate, and it says they're making adequate progress or not making adequate progress, it's based on the skills that they're learning in intervention, not in the classroom. So our short-term goals are making sure if a student needs to learn their letter sounds, that's what they're learning in intervention, how to use those, how to implement the different strategies. So there's 4 different types of intervention that your child can receive. In math, it's either computation or application. In reading, it's going to be basic reading, fluency, and reading comprehension. We have reading comprehension both on the Tier 2 and Tier 3 level. So math computation is your basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It's not like one of those old speed tests that we used to have in grade school. This is about accuracy and automaticity, different strategies that we can give them to make them successful. So things you can do at home, always iReady. You can use flashcards. Talk to them at the grocery store. Have them count up the change. Have them count up how much it is for whatever it is they're wanting to buy. We do have access to MobyMax, and Math Magician is an online program. So application and reasoning is real-world math. So it is fractions, measurement, elapsed time, reading tables and graphs, problem solving, those word problems skills that they need. So again, ways that you can help at home is using iReady, mathplayground.com, word problems, and being able to explain why, and have them tell you what time it is. I know we rely so heavily on digital clocks, but one of the big 3rd grade skills is actually reading an analog clock and being able to tell time based on that. So make sure that you at least introduce them, show it to them, ask them what they think it means. One of the main groups that we have is basic reading. This is where students need a little bit more help on understanding letter names, sounds, the vowel rules, why certain letters together make certain sounds, blending, taking letters and putting them together and making sounds with those letters. We use a lot of sight words, and then understanding different syllable types. So what can you do at home? Read. Read to them, read with them, listen to them read. Do word attack strategies, flashcards with words, different letters, different sounds, whatever you can do to get them engaged. The next one is fluency and comprehension. This is about pacing. It's funny, the kids, when they come to us, they think they have to read just as fast as they can. But it's very important they understand we want them to be fast, but we also want them to be accurate and to be able to understand what it is that they're reading. They need to read with inflection. No one wants to hear someone just boring reading. It's like when the exclamation point's there, what do I do? And when there's excitement, stuff like that. They need to understand that fluency isn't just speed. It's not how fast you can read. When it's comprehension, why are you reading this? What is it about? What questions can we ask? And it's very important to take a moment and tell you, no matter what reading group these students are in, they always are in some kind of text. What we do is we take what we've taught them in the Orton-Gillingham lesson, and we want to apply that to some type of reading. So our kids who are, even our kindergartners are in books, some type of book at their level. So again, what can you do at home? Read to them, read with them, listen, ask questions. Words, call, phrases, fry words are a good one to use as well. And I wanted to end the show with this one. This is a graphic you've probably seen before. I shared it a lot with my parents because I didn't give homework, and my parents really got angry with me sometimes about that. But it's not that I didn't want them doing something at home, but it was important to me. I taught third grade the majority of my time, and my homework was always to read and to work on multiplication or whatever it was in math. So I showed this to them. So 20 minutes a night is all I ever asked for. So student A reads 20 minutes a day, which equals 3,600 minutes in a school year. Student B reads 5 minutes each day, which only equals 900 minutes in a school year. Student C reads 1 minute each day, which is 180 minutes in a school year. So as you can see, the student A is going to be introduced to more words versus student C. So just making them read for a little bit at home, finding something that interests them. They don't have to read anything that's boring or anything like that. It's just getting them reading something. We make sure to try, Miss Ackle in the library really tries to make sure the students are getting books that they're interested in, topics, find out what do they want to read. So that's the best thing that I think you can do at home is just let them read, have them read to you, you read to them, make it fun. So hopefully this answered some of your questions. I'm going to include this PowerPoint with video into a forms that's going to allow you to ask any other clarifying questions you may need. I'm also going to include my email so that you can email me if you have further questions. But just to let you know, your student will receive a progress report from us when they receive their progress report from their teacher and at report card time. So in between those, if you have ever any questions, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to your child's interventionist. So thank you so much for taking the time to learn what RTI Squared is.